Applying curses. Oh, we stunned him. Dude, the damage on the boss is unreal right now. We didn't even get to see all of his skills, I think. Right? Alright guys, so here's the recap of my day 2 endeavors. Another like 8 to 10 hours of gameplay, I suppose. So roughly 20 hours in. We are in Act 4, which is Act 1 Cruel difficulty. Just started it. We now have access to level 11 skill gems and level 2 support gems. I'll first show you where we're at right now, and I'll also show you some clips of how it looked on the way here. We have 4 points of ascendancy, so we've completed a second trial in Act 3. And now the build is basically up and running for this leveling part. And I'll show you the changes that I did. I even respec something in the ascendancy, spent like 7,000 gold on it. So when it comes to items, I'm using a chaos damage bow. I found it to scale better than fizz damage right now. It does have this leeches 2% of fizz damage as mana, but first of all, I think that's completely bugged out. Leech in general, I don't think it works in most cases. I've seen reports on the forums, etc. People coming in all day on stream telling me that it doesn't work. And I've also noticed that sometimes it should be leeching, but it isn't. So leech is bugged. Avoid it until it's fixed, or you can try it yourself, and if by some miracle it works for you, then great. So what does this mean for our build as Acolyte of Chayula? Well, so that means that we're not using these 2 nodes. Mana Leech is instant, and consuming questions Mana Leech effects also recover energy shield, which is very unfortunate, but I'm hoping that we will be using this very soon. So yesterday, initially, I had this spectin, but I had to refund it, and then I went pure damage here. I really think you can feel this one. It's probably the best one to go for. Maybe initially, when you get your first 2 points, you can go into darkness, because the first spirit gems that you get, if you're playing Acolyte with a bow, it really doesn't do much. The spirit gems really don't do much. You can get the Plague Bearer, you can get Ghost Shroud, like, it's kind of useless. So you might go for this and then respec, or go for this and then extra damage or whatever you want. So this is an option. Even though people saying it's bad, it's an option at the start. You can respec later by spending all of your gold. If you don't want to respec, I recommend you either start with Into the Breach or Reality Rending. Into the Breach is worse than we thought, because the purple flames that give chaos damage, you can see the tooltip here, they do stack, but you cannot have 10 stacks. There's absolutely no way you get to 10 stacks, because the flame duration is not reset whenever you pick up the same color. So Into the Breach, not as good. Helps a lot on bosses. Helps a lot in battle of attrition fights, where you're just trying to eke out like small wins against the bosses and pick up the health and the mana, because you're running out of flash charges. So it works there, and it works against the mobs in general, but it's nothing too special, this Into the Breach. This one with the extra chaos damage, I feel like is pretty solid. So let's get back to the gear, and then we'll continue with the skill tree. I'm trying to stack as much life and resistances and energy shield as possible, but energy shield is really not that good without that leech node. And so I'm just prepping my gear for whenever I want to do that big switch. Attributes are extremely important. You need a lot of dexterity and a lot of intelligence to keep up with the demands of the gems. Strength, not so much. You're not using strength gems almost at all. And again, this quiver, it's still here. Gain 3 life per enemy hit with attacks. You can get this on your weapon too. So the same exact thing on the weapon. And you can get it on the gloves. So you can have 9 life per enemy hit with attacks. That's a ton, okay? That's just so much life coming in. And that's what keeps you alive in this build. You don't have a lot of survivability. This is what keeps you alive. It's on the items, not on the skill tree. I was using this chest for a little while since the second trial. A lot of energy shield, max life, stun threshold, but this dropped. The Cloak of Flame, so it's similar to the PoE 1 version, but it does seem like it's good right now at this level. I don't know if this is a late game thing. Probably not. It has lower stats, so I wouldn't call this a late game item. But while leveling, I think this is pretty solid. It gives you 50 fire resistance. That's a lot too. As you can see, my resistances are very low, and this is what gets me killed. Okay, now let's take a look at the skill tree. So we've taken these poison nodes here, and I honestly think that this is a mistake. It's just too hard to scale poison this early. It would probably be better to take these nodes and possibly like up here, the withered nodes, extra chaos damage, maybe this instead of the poison stuff. But the build has come alive, and I'll show you why. This is the most important part. This build is alive because of this skill, Rain of Arrows. It fires 36 arrows, and you can only have one volley going at a time, but it shoots relatively fast. We don't use frenzy charges yet. We cannot really generate them that much, but it's still worthwhile using because the attack damage is 144%, so that scales the poison that we're doing. And on it, we're using concentrated effect and envenom because otherwise it wouldn't necessarily poison anything because we only have a small chance to do poison with attacks from the skill tree. So we need this extra envenom. Concentrated effect is a no-brainer. This is the first one that has to go in, and it's just so good with this skill. It gives it more damage, it shrinks the AoE, so it gives it even more damage. And now the skill that has been really exploding is Freezing Salvo, and this one turns Fizz into cold, but we're not doing any Fizz damage because we're using a Chaos Bow. So we're only doing chaos damage straight up with this Freezing Salvo. And this skill fires 12 arrows like this. I mentioned that it heals you, but it also deals a ton of damage. This is our biggest burst. We're still using Contagion. It's okay. It's not as good as before. We have a Herald that replaces it, sort of. Herald of Plague. It spreads the most damaging poison when you kill something and also hinders enemies. Barrage, ignore this. It doesn't work with anything that we're using, so just ignore this one for now. Ghost Dance, because we have 30 spirit that we don't know how to spend. You basically want to do evasion and energy shield stacking on this character. Now, Hand of Chayula. I'm not using a crossbow anymore. Hand of Chayula is a skill that I use on a boss or a rare mob, and it just dashes on the boss and inflicts despair, which is minus 20% chaos resistance because it's reduced by the skill, and Sniper's Mark. Now, Sniper's Mark doesn't do much, but it can give us a frenzy charge. There's a very high chance that we get a critical hit from the volley of Rain of Arrows. Toxic Growth is still our main shotgun for the boss because we can stack it while the boss is stunned, for example. And then we do the Freezing Salvo on top of it. Fine Arrow is here, but it's not the greatest skill. It still serves a purpose because I've put Maim on it. And Maim is a pretty good ailment because everything gets slowed by 30% and also reduced evasion rating, and that's some crowd control at least. We don't have almost any crowd control, so this helps against those super fast mobs and stuff. So yeah, guys, you're gonna struggle a little bit towards the end of Act 2, but as soon as you get to Act 3 and you get the level 7 skill gem, this build just explodes. And try to figure out whether you're better with a physical bow or a chaos bow and just build around that. That's it for today. That was day 2. I'll be streaming tomorrow, and see you in the next one.